Hello everyone, Geek Girl back with another video. Today I decided to wear my Sam from Trick or Treat pajamas to do the video. Just felt like being comfy because I'm going to do a little bit of talking today. So I've been thinking about this video concept for a little while now, and it's something that I feel kind of passionately about, so I thought I would give it a go. So basically this video is going to be about what fish you should breed for money and why. And I'm inspired by this talk because I know a lot of people want to make money, right? You want to breed fish and make money doing it. I've always been one who, it was never important to make money. It would be nice to break even. At the end of the day, it's a hobby. That being said, over the years I've discovered there's a lot of different types of fish you can breed and different other invertebrates and aquatic organisms you can breed that can bring you in a decent amount of money on a fairly consistent basis, depending on who you market it to and where. So if you're not familiar with me, basically I've spent 10 years working in the industry up until now. I've done everything from wholesale to laboratory, like fish lab work, to I worked several years, 3 years at one of the most well-regarded pet store in Michigan, and that's where I learned a lot of my, beginning information. I've been in the hobby since I was a kid. I've learned a lot from other hobbyists as well. I've been active in aquarium society since I was 14 years old. So it's been my whole life basically, and I've seen everything. I feel like I've seen every angle of it. I started my own aquatics department, and through that experience specifically, I realized what things sell, specifically online, and shows and things, and learned a lot along the way. So now my fish room is kind of catered to, okay, I don't have a lot of room, right? But what can I breed that A, I enjoy, B, that there's a niche market for, and C, that people will buy no matter what, almost. That there's always a good dollar value in those animals, even if it's not, on paper it's not like a $60 fish, sure. But the little $10 ones add up, right? I even feel like axolotls can be kind of nice to breed in a way, from the sense that if you wholesale them, they have to be young, you have to wholesale them, because the longer you hold on to them, the more they're going to cost you. But if they're young and you wholesale them and get them out the door as soon as they're eating frozen, you can do well on that. So anyway, that's a separate thing. I have my own, I'll have to do my own video on axolotls. I've been kind of playing around with that since I've been breeding them. I know there's opinions about breeding axolotls, but I'll address that in a future video. Regardless, we're going to back to the topic here at hand. So the topic today is what fish you should breed and why. And hopefully this little get-up will keep you interested and keep your attention. Side note, I love horror films. Trick or Treat is a horror anthology. It's kind of a cult classic now. It came out in early-ish 2000s. Yeah, I like horror films, and I got this at Spirit Halloween, and I will be back to get more merch there when they're back up and running and they're doing their 50% off. Go get you some. Once a year they do 50% off right after Halloween. Pretty good. That's all their horror merch and stuff. So even just these little jammies, socks, whatever it is, mugs. I've got a lot of glasses that are like Trick or Treat and Coraline and stuff like that. So anyway, get back to it. So what fish you should breed and why? I'm going to sound a little controversial in saying this, but my first pick is not cichlids. I do feel when you are looking for the criteria of fish to breed, cichlids are definitely sought after, right? Good dollar amount, yeah. The problem with cichlids lies in the fact that if you cannot sell them in pairs, males and female pairs, or it depends on the species, right? So the one I think is worth breeding, if you can get a good sex ratio, would be a pistogramma. A pistogramma, all day long. You breed those, you're going to sell them all day long. The problem is, unless you know what you're doing with the pH and temperature and stuff, and depending on the species, sometimes you get skewed sex ratios. And with a pistogramma, you can sell males, show males, but you're not going to sell as many unless you have a female to go with them, like a gal to go with them. I will say similarly, killifish, not going to mention them in this. Why? Males are gorgeous. Yes, they're easy to breed. Kind of a niche market. Almost too niche of a market. And then the females are all kind of butt ugly. So, and we'll leave those. So basically, my first point for what you should breed and why, the first thing to consider for me is you're going to be producing a lot of this fish, right? Obviously, you want to be able to have something you can breed. So that's, you don't want to get like okay, this is like a $150 oddball fish when nobody's bred it before. That's not going to make you money. But when you're looking at the fish and you're like, okay, assuming you get a 50-50 ratio of males and females, that means half of your production is going to be females. Are both sexes sought after or pretty? That's a big thing. So when we're looking at things with strong sexual dimorphism, if people are not buying them to breed them, they're not going to want the girls as much. Or if they're... So a good example of that for me would be the African cichlids. So the peacock cichlids are a prime example of that. Males, show males, gorgeous. You will sell them all day long. Not a lot of people want the females. And it's, yes, hobbyists who want to breed them will want the females, but by and large, like, people want males on those. So that's one I would not recommend breeding unless you wanted to cull half the fish eventually, or, because realistically, what are you going to do with, 50% females that there isn't a market for? Should you still breed them? Sure. But that's not my number one for making money, because you're basically throwing away half the fish. I dated someone who bred these things, and I saw him struggle to sell bags with females in them, because he would try to add the male and then a group of females just to get him out the door, but people would just look at the bag and be like, I just want the boy. So that's one. I wouldn't recommend it. I know he did a lot better. So bristlenose plecos, weirdly enough, I don't know how that market hasn't crashed. I really, really, truly do not. Those and angelfish, for some reason, auctions, shows, swaps, bristlenose, and angelfish sell all day long. And I just sit there like, aren't you guys sick of these things yet? Don't you want to keep something different? I guess the answer is no. But furthermore, for the generalists, not just the hobbyists, they're still going to like that fish, because like the angelfish is an iconic fish, right? Bristlenose are just like, every tank can have a bristlenose. That's one thing I saw commonly at auctions and things, even though like it's been debunked, right? Plecos do not clean your tank. Drill that in your head. They do not clean your tank more than they pollute it because they poop nonstop. So, yes, they'll eat some of your algae, but you're gonna have like piles of poop everywhere. I'm gonna bleep that just because I'm not gonna say this is kid friendly, right? But yeah, I try not to swear too much in these things. So basically, I guess if you're in the market for something that's a sure shot, like no matter what, go ahead and set up your angelfish and bristlenose tank, because guess what? Both sexes are sought after. Both sexes look about the same. They're both pretty, right? Depending on the morph and stuff. Which brings us to my next thing. When you're picking out the type of fish to breed, you may choose to get prettier morphs, right? Or more in-demand morphs. Whenever possible, if you're working with a species that's already established in the hobby and people have a lot of it, right, already, I will never say you're going to make as much money selling brown bristlenose as you are selling the super reds. Why? Because brown bristlenose are boring now. People want pretty ones. There's just we're spoiled now, right? We want the pretty ones, but there's too many pretty ones to choose from now. So you got the next coolest one, and your bristlenose aficionados, your angelfish aficionados, aficionado. They are always going to want the next best color morph. You see it in the reptile hobby a lot. It's true in the fish hobby for established types of fish. So for instance, like guppies and live bears and things, there's still a strong market for show quality or new varieties of either endlers or full full tail, long, showy male guppies and there's always like new mosaic this or dragon this or black Moscow or red there's always a new and cool morph. And as long as you can get your hands on those before everyone else does, yes, you can make a pretty penny. The long game, the longer you have those animals, their price is going to plummet. But if you can get ahead of the game, get them when they're new, you can make bank a little bit. But the thing that's tricky with those guys is that at the end of the day, they're guppies, right? Same with the bristlenose. At the end of the day, they're bristlenose, right? At the end of the day, with the angelfish, they're angelfish, right? So there's no secret to breeding them. And people are not shy about breeding them. They're just tried and true fish. So for me personally, I found my bit of my niche right now in breeding my Danios. And I know people are gonna look at me and be like, Danios are not where the money is. Celestial Pearl Danios are. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's a fish people you can't get enough of. Not enough hobbyists are breeding them in the U.S. I'm going to say that just without hesitation. There is not enough hobbyists in the U.S. breeding enough Celestial Pearl Danios to meet the demand domestically. There just isn't. They're imported all the time. And what I found is that Celestial Pearl Danios, you can wholesale. If you tell your local pet store, like not PetSmart, Petco, but like your mom and pop fish store, if you tell them that you are breeding Celestial Pearl Danios and you are producing the crap out of them and they are healthy and you give them a first batch and they see them and they see how well they do for them, they're going to be hooked. And I'm going to tell you why. Because Celestial Pearl Danios don't import well. And because a lot of people aren't breeding them domestically, pet stores have to import them because there is demand. There's a lot of demand for Celestial Pearl Danios, and we're not meeting it. So it has to be imported, and imports fall apart. So we have this difficulty where new people who are like, I got my desktop tank, I got my new like planted nano tank, like I really want this fish because they're a really nice fish. And they go to the store and then it's a newbie or something and the store only has imports that are falling apart. They're essentially set up for failure. So I'm going to say right now, Celestial Pearl Danios is my number one breed for money fish in the top of my mind. And now that I have long fin ones, it's like an even cooler thing, but I almost wish I had less long fins and more regular ones because right now I have to charge a premium for the long fins, but the regular ones, like, you can wholesale them snapped up. I have no less than 2 or 3 pet stores at any given time that will buy almost as many as I can produce of Celestial Pearl Danios. So that's something that's definitely like, I need to do that in the immediate future, and I'm probably going to be buying more regular ones to set up separately in colonies because of that demand and because I know they're not going to want the long fins every time. And actually probably not at all right now because of what I'm charging for them. But here's another thing too, though, to keep in mind. If you do breed bread and butter, whatever fish that nobody else really breeds. So take, for instance, I'm breeding Scarlet Batis right now. And I've started noticing misbanding, weird blotches and spots on some of my males that I've been producing. That's weird, right? It could be a new color morph if I bred them long enough. Celestial Pearl Danios, I bred them for several years in my own collection. And then longfin popped up. You know, it could happen. So think about other fish that don't have albino or longfin mutations yet. Those 2 mutations almost always show up at some point if things are bred long enough. Again, I'm going to reference like reptiles and stuff. There's almost no reptile that people have been breeding that doesn't come in like some kind of form of albinism or leucistic or something like with less coloration, less reduced pattern and things like that. I think if you take a fish with a lot of pattern and reduce the pattern, that's kind of a fail, but it depends. If it's a brown spotted fish and you reduce the pattern and now it's orange, like the super red plecos, that's a win. So if you can create something new, now that's a big ask, right? You have to work with them for a while. I'm going to tell you right now, you have to pick a species when they are comfortable breeding, and you have to work with them for several years. You cannot get bored of them and then ship them off to someone else. You have to work with them for several years. I actually really, really want to get Celestichthyes erythromicron. Basically, they call them dwarf emerald rasboras, but the sister species to Celestichthyes margaritatis, which is the celestial pearl danium. I want to get those going again pretty soon. I kind of let my small group of them they just aged out, but I'm looking to get more of them again because now I'm inspired. What if I can make a long fin erythromicron, right? That could be cool because those males are really pretty too. Maybe less pattern in the fins, but it's still neat presence. So yeah. Anyway, I'm feeling inspired about that. So maybe you might feel inspired about that too. If you can make that happen, I recommend just anybody who has a fish room, choose one species that you just really like and just commit to maintaining it for several years. Now, that's going to tie up a few tanks, right? It's going to take up different tanks because you have to maintain that line for that long, you have to have separate bloodlines and introduce new stuff. Because as hobbyists, we kind of get in this habit of we're going to breed brothers and sisters and brothers and sisters and brothers and sisters and brothers and sisters. And then, oh no, they're balloon bellied now. They're, and then they're going to charge a premium for that too, which is weird to me. But anyway, you want to get some new blood in sometimes, and you want to have a plan to sort of keep a little bit distinct, separate bloodlines. I do know with things that are more group spawning, like egg scatters and things of that nature, you can get away with that for longer because you're not choosing one male and one female. The eggs you're harvesting from any given batch are going to be from several females and several males, right? So there's already more genetic diversity built in with those species. That being said, I'm still having several tanks of celestial pearl danios. So, back on track, what you should breed and why. I've talked about sexual dimorphism, breeding things that you are comfortable with and that you think you could potentially make a new morph out of. That should be on the back burner. You can't count on that, but keep that on the back burner because it could pay off. And, could have your name as the first to do it. I don't know if it's actually I'm the first who bred an albino this or this or this or okay. It's not like discovering a new species, but it's still cool. Yeah. So moving along, the other thing I want to think about, you want something that's consistent demand, right? Well, we have to look at it can this fish coexist with other fish peacefully? Can you mix them into community tanks and then they're not a problem? So that's one of the things where it's people sometimes want to breed flower horns, right? They want to breed the more aggressive cichlids, right? They want to breed things that pair off and are evil to each other. I mean, angelfish do that, yeah, a little bit. But the big bruiser cichlids and things like that, people think that, oh, I'm going to breed convicts and make a lot of money because I can get $1 a piece and they have 1,000 babies. Ain't work that way, I'm sorry, but the demand is not there because nobody wants to have tanks full of convict cichlids. Nobody wants to have 20 red devils, and trust me, their spawns are way bigger than that. So to the right hobbyists, breed them, absolutely, but they're not going to make you money. So that's why, again, I've kind of landed on some Danios. I've fallen on, I tend to lean on species that are community friendly. For me, I like nano species, right? Because big fish, not everyone's going to have the space for. Everyone can find room for a 5-gallon to put a pair of Bet Alba marginata in, Everyone can find a 5-gallon to put a few Batis, Scarlet Batis in, Also, those fish can sometimes play nice other fish, so that's a bonus. So, I recommend sticking with peaceful species when possible. I've chosen rice fish recently because I can see that surge in popularity happening. And again, whenever you see, go make yourself comfortable with going to these swaps. Make yourself comfortable with talking to pet stores, okay? If you want to make money doing this a little bit, even just to buy more fish, talk to the pet stores and say, what do you need? What do you have a need? What do you have gaps for? What do you need? what do you have that like is selling really well but you can't get enough of it? Or you know, what do you have requests for that you just can't find at all? Rice fish right now are great for me because so Japanese rice fish, like the fancy Madakas, they are very, very easy to breed. They're very, very easy to raise. But for whatever, and they're just as pretty as guppies and like fancy guppies and stuff. But there, for whatever reason, there's just not a huge representation of them in the U.S. right now, and especially like where I am, like in Michigan. They seem to all be in California. They're trickling in, but it's taking a minute. And I think there are people who, the people who know about them want them badly. Every time I go to fish swaps now, because I'm becoming known for breeding rice fish a little bit, people walk up to me and say, "What rice fish do you have?" Well, right now, I'm working on it. I'm taking the summer off. I've been producing I have like 5 distinct varieties at least of Japanese Badaka, but I need to get my numbers up. But the point is the demand's there. Summer tubbing season, they go great outside. You can bring them back in for low effort fry racing. They're great to see from above. They're beautiful, like platinum, sparkly, longfin, koi, tricolor, mixed, you know, patterns and colors. There's just gorgeous fish, but there's demand for it. I think there's some hobbyists that are catching on, but a lot of people are like, I didn't know what rice fish were. So there's still the people who are in the dark on those, but they're gonna learn. They slept on them for too long. So if you can find those gaps, right, exploit that. That's what I'm saying. If there's an up-and-coming species that you think you can breed, or an up-and-coming variety of something, and you get your hands on it first, or you breed it before everyone else does. The problem is, once everyone else is breeding rice fish, maybe they become common as dirt, and people are like, They're still pretty, though. So for me, it's like, even people go, there's still novice and new hobbyists that are going to be like, I just want pretty fish to look at, and they're gorgeous, and they're peaceful, and they're small. They stay small. They go great in like a planted tank on my desk. They make me really happy to look at. Bingo. And trust me, with the Japanese Madaka, both sexes are pretty. Both male and female, gorgeous. Gorgeous. No wasted fish. We don't waste fish in this house, alright? Alright, so I'm getting to the point where I'm ready to wrap up this video. I'm trying to think if there's something else I was going to say about that. I know for me, those are some of the major things. Yes, the thing I kind of glossed over at the beginning. Can you raise these fish confidently? Like, is their fry care straightforward enough for you? That's an important consideration, because if you're going to make money off of them, you have to succeed. So for me, I'm very comfortable raising Danios now. There's a lot of hobbyists I'm talking to, and I'm, over the years, who are still kind of like, I like these Danios, I want to try it, but they just might need a little more coaching, which is why I give talks about it, by the way. The point is, you want to make sure that's something you can reliably breed and produce and all that. I also want to add one little thing at the end here, selling online, even just in person and online. If you can do neocaridina shrimp or crystal shrimp I've had difficulty with, but both of them, highly, highly in demand. You almost can never produce enough of them, because it's kind of like the bristlenose. People throw them in like all of their tanks, so and they can have tons and tons of them, and they're seen as like good scavengers and cleanup crew and all that. So you really can't produce enough of them, and that's another one that people, pet stores will appreciate buying from breeders. Why? Because they're also largely imported, and when they're largely imported, they're raised outside, which is fine, except that they have parasites and other things, and they don't always do well when you bring them in. So if you can home grow neocaridina shrimp, that's a winner across the board. Oh, the other thing I was going to touch on was that basically I found out that if you can breed rare live bearing fish, not talking guppies like Poecilia reticulata, I'm not talking regular mollies or your fancy platies. Swordtails, for some reason, people pay a lot of money for swordtails at auctions and swaps and stuff. So that's what I'm going to say. They're a little slow growing, but they're worth it. The bigger bang for the buck. You can do swordtails. People love them as dithers. They're nice mid-sized fish and pretty. But that being said, if you can maintain like a wild type live bearer or something, so just go online and try to find like a species for sale online if you're thinking of breeding. If you know there's demand for it and you look online and nobody has it, it's like, or sometimes even just being the only person who has it. I found with like Gadiads and stuff and and wild live bears, there's very poor representation of it for people to order online, and pet stores will not usually carry them. Not because they don't want to, just because they're not available from wholesalers. Like, only hobbyists really work with them. I recommend, if you can get your hands on like any Felicles species, or like Neoheterandria elegans, or like I'm working with Xenophallus arbortilis, which is a golden teddy, a highly underrated live bear that I think people are going to love once they know about them more. All these things go for decent amount of money online, because when you try to find them, only like 2 places have them at any given time. Tequila split fin Gadiads always go for good money, and they're live bears, and so some of them can be a little tricky. Like, some of them produce smaller broods, some are more efficient at eating their babies, let's just say. But if you can put a little effort into them, like wild type platies and swordtails and things, whenever you do work with these, please maintain the collection location information, because the hobbyists who buy them are going to want them, and you will, especially with endangered varieties, and keeping in the sense that you want to keep them pure, because people who want these fish, they don't want the aquarium strain, because that's the same as more or less getting, going up to PetSmart and buying the platies, the Mickey, whatever platies, Variatus platies. Okay, cool, but the people who want these fish are going to want like the true stuff, like the real wild collected, kept pure, not hybridized. So anyway, the other thing, the final closing thought, you might look at, okay, how much money per fish, can I get? To be honest with you, if you look at wholesale lists for fish wholesale about a third or a fourth of what they retail for. About a third. So it's about a 75% markup. Why do I say this? Because if you're trying to move large quantities at wholesale prices, you need to know that. So celestial pearl danios are one that, depending on regionally where you are, they can go anywhere from like $5 to like $10 a fish. Retail. Wholesale, $2 to $3, like, if I'm being honest. There has to be a markup, right? Because pet stores gotta make money. And unfortunately, when you have money tied up in livestock, you're losing a lot of money. Things expire, animals die. So you just want to make sure that you are picking out things that, give you a fair dollar amount if you had to wholesale them, or if you retail them and you knew you'd go to swaps, you knew you could sell online, that you'd get a decent amount of money for them. Like, at the end of the day, if you have let's say, for instance, you pick a weird tetra to work with, pick one that people want that's selling for like $40, right? Right now. Like, yeah, the price will go down a little bit, and if they're smaller, you wouldn't get as much for them. But you could still probably sell them retail $10 to $20 all day long. People would snap them up. Cory cats, one that people cannot seem to get enough of. Cory cats. If you can breed Cory cats, do it. Do the weird ones, the C numbers and stuff. People will pay a lot of money for Cory cats. So, it's all relative. Some things got to weigh out. How much does it cost to produce these? Do I have the tank space for them? Is there demand for them? Do I want to wholesale them? Do I want to retail them? Can I wholesale them, or can I retail them? Can I ship them? These are all things to consider, right? But I recommend getting a good relationship with local pet stores if you have them. Looking into things to sell online, like Aquabid or Vivi is a new up-and-coming place to ship fish and sell, have like an online marketplace. Highly recommend checking them out. I'm probably going to get into Vivi in the next year or so. I'm still kind of building up my numbers, but that's something I'm kind of like forward. That's what I want to do. So those are just some of my thoughts. Right now, I've been working with, like, again, like I said, a lot of nanofish. I'm becoming the rice fish person. If you are known as that person, you will get more business too. If you have like a genus of fish that you work with that everyone's into or wants or is curious about, and they know you're the guru for it, you'll have inquiries. And at the end of the day, that's how you make money. So I'm going to close here. If you have any thoughts or comments, place them down below. I know this is a long video. Thank you for watching. And I'll catch you next week.